sitting out on the sidelines watching the game, and somewhat to my chagrin and great surprise, it is actually the MVP is the top laner. This is going to be a surprise to me, not only just because of the team, Young Glory taking a game over World Elite, but the number one there on the screen as well. And you can see the casters to the side going to start to look a little bit happier because they predicted the 1-1 score.
Yeah, only the one in the middle did predict the 2-0. So yeah, talking about number one, when there was the team's introduction, you talked about him being the number 5. And
He disagreed. He wanted that number
yeah,
one spot back up. So
that's the only reason why he stepped up in this game. And you actually talked about him. He played a lot of different champions and actually couldn't find his best one. Right now on the scale, he was 6-2 at some point in the game. Was looking just so good, and that's a big thing for Young Glory. So there's one game, the first one. We'll see if the strategy works out for the second game and if they can finally pull off a 2-0 win in the LPL.
yeah, I don't think Young Glory have a 2-0 in them, but with what World Elite experienced in that game one, you could tell that like World Elite, they had a strategy going in. They're like, hey, Kassadin's a strong champion, let's go with that. And to be honest, I think they expected Kassadin to get banned, and then Ninja would have gone with something like his Twisted Fate. That's been actually looking pretty good lately, but especially with World Elite having a little bit of a rough experience yesterday versus OMG, and then coming in maybe not completely prepared against Young Glory. Young Glory, I can only imagine, I can see them like sitting in front of their computer screens late at night, like hatching this master plan to give up Kassadin and then counter it out like so effectively. And good sweet lord, did they do an impeccable job of just smashing Kassadin into the ground. He got some kills early, but then there's just like activated plan counter the Kassadin, and they had like a nice TP mid from number one, and he and Yinfu just completely wrecked that game. The Skarner ults were on point, and while we can't talk too much about the Kassadin, let's move on and talk a little bit about Wei Zhao. His positioning is usually impeccable, one of the best in the world, and that game made him look a little silly.
Yeah, and actually coming back to this Kassadin and talking about the positioning, he also wasn't looking too well, just jumping into the fights 1v5 in the last fight of the game. What was that? What was he thinking? Just going down immediately after that. He had this zone, yeah, okay, that helped him by a little bit, but that was a big mistake. So Ninja needs to work on his Kassadin skills, and maybe he didn't even expect it to be left unbanned. That's why he didn't have this pick prepared for the middle.
And as we come into game number 2, like, you have to know World Elite are starting to think. They're like, all right, we just lost a game against one of the worst teams in LPL. Young Glory have major problems. Like, they can't make it past, like, if they don't win early on, they just lose. And even if they win early on, they have trouble closing out the game. They looked like an entirely different team. They lost a little bit early on, but they had a huge turnaround with the teleport bottom lane from number one. His KL got like a huge number of kills. I think he came out of that 4-0. It was ridiculous. And then with the rough start to the KL in the top lane and just a lack of coordination from World Elite, every single team fight after that went the way of Young Glory. They turned things around. They got stronger as the game progressed and just made perfect shot calling. Like, what is this team that I'm watching, and why are they at the bottom of the standings in LPL?
Yeah, definitely. That's the thing that Pyra also said. Where was this Young Glory earlier on in the split? That is just incredible how they stepped up their game. But it's just the blink of perfection also. How Pyra said, it's just once in a lifetime, pretty much. They had this one huge win in the previous season also, when they were playing as Young Glory, when the answer was in the middle and Diangon was in the top, when they won against OMG, just completely stomping them, leaving them no place to come back. And there we go, Young Glory now, in this season, winning against World Elite in pretty much the same style.
And you can see number one there on your screen. That guy's got to be pretty happy with himself. He came into this as arguably one of the weaker members of Young Glory. He had been struggling to find both his champion and really his purpose in his role over the last few games that Young Glory played, ever since they took that game off of OMG. But in that game, he not only looked purposeful, he helped set things up off of teleports, and really it was his ultimate from Kale that really helped counter out Ninja's Kassadin. And when you can say, hey, I built a team comp to counter a Cassid, and like that's not something that a lot of teams can say, because it seems like every time teams come up with these genius strategies to counter Cassid, he still gets fed, he still carries the game, and everybody's just kind of looking like, well, why did we leave that champion up? And there we can see it on your screen, like I was talking about this before game number 1, how the duo lanes were so mismatched. Wei Zhao, he walked into Zed shadows. He just was horribly mispositioned a couple times, got grabbed by Skarner, and that was even with a black shield from Morgana still out there from Conan. Conan, a big roaming support, didn't roam a lot in game number 1, spent most of his time bottom lane, and now coming into game 2, Young Glory just have to lather, rinse, repeat. Wei Zhao and the rest of World Elite still have to dry themselves off from game number 1 and look to come back here. Not going to see Kassadin in this game. World Elite not confident leaving it up.
Just not giving it to Ninja anymore. We'll see what they do go for. Just look at the bans from World Elite. Everything that appeared in the previous game got banned by them this time around. So there's a lot of big picks left out open. And number 1 will get his Gragas there too.
All right, and honestly, that is one of his stronger champions. He could go for a Jax. Those are kind of his top 2, but Gragas, kind of the big top lane pick. Yeah, I mean, that's his other choice as far as his champion pool is concerned. But with the Jax ban, it's kind of interesting. What are we going to see out of the top lane? Could still see a Kayle if it weren't banned. So I'm thinking maybe you default to things like Shyvana. You got to go way deep in your champion pool to pick something up there. Jarvan jungle is pretty likely, but let's talk about this. He's named after the champion, and Sin gets Lee Sin, one of the strongest junglers in the LPL.
Yeah, definitely, and he will have this Lee Sin just because the bans were kind of confusing this time around. Just the Kassadin, Kayle, Skarner, everything that appeared in the previous game. Just as I said, but Django, he gets his Yasuo. That also might be a big thing for Young Glory once again.
And a couple of things to talk about as far as Yasuo is concerned. Yasuo has been a champion that OMG actually, they've started to try to bring it into team comps, hasn't worked out for them. And a lot of teams try to bring it in, and it needs so much. But now you have not only the Yasuo Gragas combo, which is something that actually a Challenger NA team probably did before a lot of other teams. It was the old GGLA roster or Cloud9 Eclipse. But they were all about that Yasuo Gragas, but that was in the opposite direction. They put Yasuo top lane and Gragas mid. But after the changes, now it's Yasuo mid and Gragas top. So interesting, because now you're going to just pack on knockups after knockups after knockups. And Young Glory, this time around, they have less of a counter team comp and more of just a wombo combo hard engage.
And there's the Ziggs and this Lee Sin coming out from World Elite, so that might already be a big blow to Young Glory. But yeah, on the other hand, we do have this Yasuo alongside with a Jarvan and the Gragas, so he does have a lot of knockouts, plus a Nami too, possibly, with the Aqua Prisons. That also is a knockup, so that also might be a nice setup for the Yasuo. And it will get locked in.
All right,
so we'll see.
Yeah, minor refresh to the stream real fast as we get everything back and loaded in. So give me one moment. In the meantime, as you can see the standings right there after their 2-0 win versus World Elite yesterday. OMG back on top of the standings, and of course right underneath them, the team they're playing tonight, Young Glory. And by right underneath, I mean way underneath, although not quite so far underneath after this series. So if you can do some quick play-by-play of the picks and bans as we close things out, I'll try to get that back up on your screen.
Alright, so we do have Nanami locked in by Young Glory. On the other hand, there's a Fizz into the top by Xiaomei to counter out this Gragas. We'll see how it turns out. But also, I wanted to talk about... Yep, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was reacting to the Fizz pick. I'm going to be a little confused about that for a while, so I'll let you finish your thought and explain to me why on earth this is happening.
Well, first of all, I wanted to talk about Jin Long, because he picked up a Kog'Maw into the bottom lane, and he's one of the least skilled AD carries in the LPL. Of course, he's not like a really bad player, but there is just better players than him. So sitting on this Kog'Maw with his positioning, it might be a big issue. They might have some problems in the bottom lane, and well, actually against a Wei Xiao who's not just doing too well today. might be quite sufficient. But yeah, talking about this Fizz in the top against the Gragas, that will be a massive thing. But yeah, the damage that Same might be able to dish out later on will bring big spike into the team fights, especially with the Ziggs
Yeah,
staying
so
next to him.
there's the top lane Fizz. It's something we haven't seen in the meta for, I think, ever since the end of season 2. Young Glory bring it, or it's actually World Elite that are bringing it out here tonight. Same has been widely revered as like one of the most skilled top laners in China. I don't know how skilled you'd have to be to pull this one off, but it is going to take some work. So we're going to head off to a quick break before we hop into game number 2. Stick around, we'll have game 2 of World Elite versus Young Glory coming up in a second. And here we are. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Game 2 of Young Glory versus World Elite. It's our second game of the best of 2 here. It's first best of 2 of the night. So I did not expect a whole lot from Young Glory. They proved me and a whole lot of other people wrong as they came in here with a very unique counter Kassadin strategy. Got them the win in Game 1, and coming into Game 2, there's still some unique situations happening, but this time it's for World Elite. Same will be playing top lane Fizz versus number 1's Gragas.
Yeah, and Sin did get his Lee Sin right there, so on the other hand, we do have this Yasuo comfort pick, so a lot of interesting things may appear in this game of Young Glory versus World Elite. Of course, Young Glory won the first game of the set, so that already is a big upset. And Young Glory, they went for an invade in the previous game. Will they go for the same thing this time around? And will they lose the first blood there once again?
Now, I was thinking about how Young Glory countered the Kassadin pick by Ninja. In this game number 2, did Same bait out the Gragas pick because he knew that leaving that champion open would be something that number 1 would go for, just so he could pick top lane Fizz? Like, is that some weird counter that only Same knows about and the rest of the world hasn't picked up on? I'm not sure. But the top lane Fizz can be something I'm keeping an eye on. But you have to keep an eye on kind of the way that the whole team comp is supposed to synergize. It's primarily like you've got poke from the mid and AD carry on World Elite, but you've got hard engage from basically the entire team of Young Glory. So we'll see if the Valkyrie is enough to get Wei Zhao the positioning he wants, because his Corki is A, the best Corki in LPL, B, one of the best Corkis in the world, and C, a champion we're going to have to look for him having a better performance on than he did in game number 1.
All right, so there is a lane swap coming out from Young Glory. So there will be the double jungle coming out for this Fizz, and we'll see how he can manage not getting the creeps on the lane. And yeah, if it was supposed to be a Gragas counter, then I tell you that it's not going to really work out if he's not going to meet this Gragas.
Yeah, so it does look like they're going to try at least a lane swap here, and I will try also to get the stream back up and running. It appears to have some minor issues, but it does look like we are back and good to go. The lane swap will mean that you have the traditional, hey, I'm no longer a top laner, I'm now a secondary jungler, as the double jungles will commence. The only problem is Fizz is like really bad at double jungle, so I'm not sure he'll actually be helping out all that much. Gragas, on the other hand, excellent at double jungle, can actually jungle himself, so a little bit of an advantage there to start things out for Young Glory. Plus, they have the Kog'Maw in the 2v1, and that actually works out really well because they were like, hey, we want to counter Fizz, and we want to get our Kog'Maw farmed. Works out very well.
Yeah, definitely Fizz gets a little bit shut down, but yeah, he's in the jungle. They might want to bring this turret in the bottom lane down and then try to leave Fizz free farming, maybe. But they're looking for this dragon or a gank in the middle lane.
There is the knock-up
really
on to Ninja. Yeah, Jarvan. You can see they're pinging him out. They're just like, hey, you want to go in yet? Maybe? It's only level 3, so there's no last breath for Yasuo. But in the meantime, World Elite, they're going to start this dragon off. This is way too low. Like,
they're going in with the flash.
And this is going to be absolutely horrible as Jarvan's going to get ignited. Actually, they turn this one around. Young Glory coming in, perfect back out there. The knock-up there by Salme. He suicides it on that one. It will be Sin actually in the back line taking down Yin Fu, and now, oh no, Ninja is just gonna. This is way too much damage, too much poke, too much counterplay, and Yangun, Yansu, or Yansir, or not Yansir, it's Yangun and Yinfu. There we go. I always forget his name, but they both go down there. 2 kills for World Elite off of what looked to be a horrible dragon situation.
Well, they got a first blood for Young Glory, so it's still not the worst situation of all. And they got it on the Yasuo. It might turn out quite okay for Young Glory, but they still lost this fight. 2 for 1 in favor of World Elite. And they will probably get this dragon when they go for it once again.
Yeah, World Elite.
Be careful.
More importantly, they pick up kills exactly where they need them. Now, look at what Axine did. He went back to base and he's like, well, I could buy items or I could just get boots of mobility. So he is going to be moving extremely fast all over the map, and that is just to look to put on early pressure. So taking a note from this, if you guys are playing and you want to put on early pressure off of those kills, buy boots of mobility because it gets you in more places faster instead of just getting you stronger items that you won't be able to use as much because you'll be that much slower.
Yeah, definitely, and it's all about the mobility right there in the jungle. You need to be able to create pressure on all the other lanes so that your laners can get more farm, more experience, more advantages. It's not only about you. So, World Elite, well, look at that. Sin will not be able to use his boots of mobility while fighting the creeps in the jungle.
Exactly, so coming around the corner as they come and knock up onto the jungle creeps, so it's a little bit of a moral advantage. But, oh, you gotta watch out for that. Jian Gun knew he had pressure. Ninja still playing this one very aggressively, but just dashing around. Yasuo actually doing really well. It's one of the few melees that actually does pretty well against Ziggs just because of the way Wind Wall works, and you always have that kill potential jumping in onto Ziggs, especially since he's actually building magic resistance in this matchup, which is obviously not going to help him too much against Yasuo.
Right, so this Fizz just managed to die in the fight over the dragon and didn't get pretty much anything of that. He does have 1 assist, but Xiaomei, he might be having a hard time in the top lane now that he's back to exactly this lane, and he'll be trying to defend the turret. And there you go, this Kog'Maw against the Fizz. It will work out quite well for Young Glory. But I do really want to see Young Glory finally picking up a 2-0, even though I predicted 1-1.
Yeah, I'm really confused as to what the Fizz is supposed to do in this World Elite team composition. They have the Fizz and Lee Sin for super hard engage as well as Braum, so maybe they're just going to throw 3 people into the team fight and let the long-range poke of Ninja and Wei Zhao follow up from the back line. But honestly, if you're going to pick Ziggs and Corki, you want a poke-based team composition, not something that's like mostly engaged looking to start fights. So might be used for counter engage actually, namely you fish the back line while they're trying to dish off damage after the hard engage, and then you use Lee Sin and Braum to kick somebody away and then ult people off your backline carries. Wouldn't be the traditional usage of those champions, but still World Elite. They come out of the laning phase even against Young Glory, and against the Kog'Maw especially. It does put Zhenlong actually in a pretty nice spot. Coming in here to what should be first dragon timing in maybe a minute or so. Of course, World Elite tried that earlier. Didn't quite work out.
All right, so, well, actually, talking about it, Young Glory have a big counter to it because you have a Yasuo who just jumps into the backline, so there's no big way to defend it. Also, there's a Gragas who can throw out an explosive cast, can just spread you out all around the map. So even though World Elite might want to pull out some peel, some defense for the backline, this will not really work out. And, well, jumping onto a Kog'Maw might be a big thing to pull off. Because he also has a lot of range. And it might be a nice comp for Young Glory too.
All right, so top turret will go down. That's actually the first turret of the game for Young Glory. Keep in mind, in game number 1, it was the first 2 turrets in a row for World Elite, so already a big change between these two teams. And while Young Glory will traditionally pick their team comps around getting counter picks mid, just like they did in that last game, this seems to be more of less of a hey, we want the mid lane to win, and more of a we're going to build a team comp to go in, pick these big team fights. Because if you look at game one, Young Glory's team fighting was actually spot on.
Yeah, and at the moment, I do really want to see the game just fast forward like 10 minutes to be able to see what this phase will really be doing, what is sitting in the heads of World Lead with that pick. Because that is really weird for me at the moment. Yeah. Also, not much going on, just this fight around the dragon, and no one even took this dragon after all, and it's still sitting there.
Now, keep in mind, in like North America or European LCS, dragons don't get done until like the 11 to 12 minute mark. It's only in China that you really see this very, very early dragon timing off of 2v1s, which World Elite tried. But now, Axine is trying to dodge away from the bubble, gets the dodge, but now he is way on the wrong side of the map as Young Glory will start off this 10-minute dragon. I don't think they actually want to finish. Okay, yeah, they do have number one coming in from the side. And now all the teleports coming in from behind. Kog'Maw in a very good spot all the way behind. Fizz is going to try to get that fish off. He does, but he's not actually in the fight doing a whole lot. Tried to get in there onto Diangun, but even he is actually chasing away Ninja. Mega Inferno Bomb's trying for the damage. Can he find the 1v1 victory? No, it is Diangun taking him down. The flash in there from Axine gets that hit onto the wrong person, and now he's actually trying to dash back away from this. Pretty sure Kog'Maw walked a little bit too far forward there. Is forced to pop that summoner heal. Number one body slamming his way away from that. It's a 1-kill victory in that team fight. Young Glory go up 1 kill and up a dragon. They will take down the first one of the game.
Yeah, but it was still really close. Sin was close to dying. Then Jianlong was in a bad position. And yeah, everyone just started running away with the blinking health bar. So kind of lucky for some of the people right there. But still, Young Glory coming out on top. They do have one turret advantage too, with the outer in the top lane down. So they do have the gold lead.
Yeah, it is a pretty sizable gold lead as well. It's 1100 gold? No, it's 11 minutes in, and they already have a 2,000 gold lead. Or thereabouts. It's like 1,500 or so once this bottom lane finishes getting cleared up. So Young Glory are in a great spot. They've got tons of CS on both of their carries. And while that is actually like very comparable to their opponents, the scaling is just way in favor of Young Glory right now, especially with that Gragas. It's just going to get ridiculously tanky. There's no way that Same is ever going to be able to 1v1 number one.
Now he might want to try to go for it.
Well, he's going to throw out the fish there. Of course, this is a 2v1 as Axine's going to come in from behind. 2v1s work out pretty well, but there's the explosive cask and the barrel slow. Dragon's Rage will kick him back in. That's one way to kill him off there, but a little bit of a late roam top lane from Diangun. Unable to save things out there, but he says, hey, Axine, heard you like 2v1s. Turns it back around, and now he's actually going to jump in onto Salme. Misses that knockup, but can't chase under the turret, but that was incredible, and Axine just not giving Diangun the respect he deserved.
Yeah, and that is just unfortunate. If this knockup did hit, that would have been 2 kills in a 1v2 for Diangun. A massive thing, but right now Aisha will be bringing down the turret in the bottom lane. And he's in a bad position too.
Bottom lane though, Wei Xiao's going to Valkyrie himself as far out as he can get. Needs a flash as well, but even that's not going to get him out of this situation alive. He's in a 2v1 and tries for the all-in on to Yansur, but can't quite find the kill. Wei Xiao again with the bad positioning. You can also kind of blame that on lack of ward coverage. He was very far overextended as well, even if he had wards out there. So Young Glory winning on all fronts. About the only thing that they're doing not quite as well is maybe the jungle pressure. 0-1-2 versus 2-1-1. So Axine's doing a pretty decent job, but with his most recent death top lane, so that's some kinks to iron out.
Yeah, it's still Young Glory keeping the 2k gold difference right now, maybe even more. Just because they got kills all around the map, and there might be something going in the bottom lane right now.
Yeah, Conan's actually getting a nice walk forward. There's Axine, gets barrel slammed back out of there with that explosive cast. Does Dragon's Rage kick Jarvan right back to try to kill his own teammate, Conan, but mostly it's just to disengage and try to escape for himself. Needs the safeguard over the wall. Conan doesn't give it to him. don't think he was in range anyway. So that is another death for Act Scene. He was the guy that was doing well for World Elite, and now after dying twice in a row, Young Glory, I don't think there's a whole lot to stop them. They've shown that even off of a huge engage, they can still come out of teamfight alive.
Yeah, and World Elite, they do need to get the advantage in the early game, and they can't really pull it off. So Kog'Maw will be ramping up pretty quickly. We do have Diangun on his most comfortable champion on this Yasuo and doing so well already, sitting on a 3-1-0. That is just so good for Young Glory.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic to see Diangun playing Yasuo, because he actually likes letting his opponents pick Yasuo and then counter-picking it with stuff like Riven. So he is going to pick that for himself. And not only did he play the lane phase incredibly well versus a Ziggs, he's ahead in CS versus Ninja, who decided to build magic resistance versus a Yasuo. Hasn't hurt him just yet, but you can just see that CS and, kill pressure. Diangun is looking incredible. And honestly, what lane isn't for Young Glory?
Yeah, definitely. They're just Young Glory. I expected it to be a 1-1 even after the win from Young Glory, but right now, even though they lost in the early game in the previous game, now they are winning even in the early stages of this matchup. So this might be another win for them, just slowly being created right here. But let's look at what's going on all around the map. We do have 114 Gragas. So as you said, this will just get tankier and more unstoppable. He does have the Rod of Ages, which also will be scaling into the mid to late game.
And he's had that Rod of Ages for about 3 minutes now, so it's already started stacking up there, giving him sustain in lane. And you can see Salme is not ever going to go near him. Might try for just continual passive lane phase, but honestly that phase is never going to do a whole lot until we get maybe 10-15 minutes later on in the game. The biggest thing to watch out for, though, is just the rotational advantage. Look at where Yinfu is right now. He's already thinking about going for the second dragon just as it respawns, and with the roam down top lane from top lane by number 1, Young Glory just setting up perfectly for this objective.
And there comes a teleport from Salme. They might want to fight for this dragon once again.
Yeah, Young Glory are gonna start it, but you can say Salme wants to finish this one off. Gragas doing a nice job zoning off to the side, but Young Glory actually disengaged from that dragon. And now, especially with the retreat there, it's actually World Elite who have the dominant position here in the dragon pit. They're able to toss all that poke damage over this dragon wall, and World Elite using that dragon pit to their own advantage instead of getting trapped inside like they were previously. So Young Glory, they back off of that objective, and World Elite now looking to take it down.
Young Glory was just so low. Whenever they just spotted World Elite's members, they had to run away because they had no health at all, but they may want to look for a trap in the bot.
They're going to try a Fnatic Bush-esque kind of idea. And there you go, the bubble into damage, the dunks down, and Wei Zhao again getting caught out here. And now Conan's going to die. Young Glory, they know exactly what to force at exactly the right time. Oh my gosh, this is just impeccable play. And World Elite playing carelessly. Something that Name will actually do. He has this sixth sense about when people are brush baiting him in the bottom lane. And that's one of the reasons he is probably the greatest AD carry in China. But mid lane, oh, look at Name. Oh my gosh. It's Diangun going underneath the turret. Tries for the 2v1 again and almost gets it. But this time, Axion can't quite find this outplay. Not even going to try for it. Yasuo just a monster in the mid lane. 4-1-0, taking out Ninja.
The second person there just always dodges the knockup, and that's the really sad thing for Diangun. He could have got just double kills and over again in the 1v2s. That's just incredible, and he got the turret on top of that, so Young Glory just making the gold lead even bigger, even though World League did get this dragon. They traded it for 2 kills in the bottom, 1 kill in the middle, and 1 turret. Still a favorable matchup for them.
Young Glory looking very, very strong. They're going to have to take the O out of Young in their name if they keep up performances like these. Like, I don't know where this team came from, but they were just not around for the first, 6 weeks of LPL. Now we're here in week 7. they're starting to take some names. Taking down game number 1, strong in every lane, but keep in mind, this is something that Young Glory has done before. They've won the early game, and now is the big test for them. It's what they do to close it out. They're up 2 turrets, so it's a great place to start. They've taken these dragons, or they took the first one, but dragon number 2 actually went to World Elite, so maybe still some signs of strength. And let's start to talk about what is going well for World Elite. They do have a ton of CS on both their carries, so they're not actually too far behind in those respects. Trinity Force is a huge power spike for Corki, so this is the point in the game where he will be strongest, except that you see a Trinity Force for Kog'Maw too, so right on par as far as that Kog'Maw is concerned.
Yeah, but you do have a comfortable pick for Sin, so he might actually pull something off with this Lee Sin. Maybe some nice kicks later on, some key kicks in the fights. We turn around. But yeah, Youngler just looking so dominant right now, and that is the question. They're coming back in the 6th, 7th week of the LPL, but will they really be able to come back in the standings? Because it might already be too late.
Now, we were talking about how Xiaomei was relatively useless, but they actually let him farm top lane for a while, and he's actually gotten a 15 CS lead over the number 1, so he's actually been starting his journey back from a 10 CS deficit that he had earlier on in the game. He also has his Lich Bane, which is a big power spike for him, so he'll be a relative threat to Kog'Maw, even if he is relatively far behind, but still looking to see the next team fight might happen towards the top half of the map. Everybody moving back to that top portion. Mid laners, they'll get there eventually. Of course, the solo laners with those teleports. Oh, knockup does land on a ninja, but no over-aggression there from Diangun.
Yeah, that would have been a little bit too much. Just going for a full fight underneath the turret would cost him too much health. But yeah, talking about this Kog'Maw, he does have a double buff on himself at the moment. That is really big, and yeah, I still don't think that Corki can match up with him just because Kog'Maw has so much range at the moment, and Corki has no range at all.
Oh, Corki does have a lot of range with rockets, though, so if you're looking for wave clear, he can still poke out the minion wave. But look at World Elite. They're playing so scared. They're bottled up behind their turret. They do have some nice wards out, so they'll be able to see exactly what Young Glory are doing, but it's what do they do with this information. Keep in mind, while all that tension and pressure is going on in the top lane, you just got the 1v1 from Xiaomei versus number 1. And that's actually pretty impressive to me to see that Xiaomei can deal with that 1v1 instead of reacting to maybe the way the champion mismatchup's been going in. And actually now the champion's on opposite sides. We got to look towards that bottom lane to see what kind of action's going down there. It does look like Xiaomei is trying for those aggressive trades, but is not able to go back in. He already used the shark, so we'll see if he tries to turn it around, gets the flash out there, and flashes back in, gets the come down from the trickster, I believe it was, used a flash immediately after that. Some sexy micro from the fish, and Xiaomei grabs the 1v1.
But still there is Diangun, so he can pull off the kill in exchange, and he will try to look for the Ziggs also, and maybe for the turret.
Yeah, bouncing bombs will clear out the minion wave, but Diangun's got more than enough damage to take down the turret, so that'll actually be the 4th turret of the game for Young Glory, taken off of a nice cleanup. And even though it was pretty cool that Xiaomei was able to get that fizz kill on Gragas, the follow-up from Diangun coming in behind that, got him a kill, got him a turret, and Young Glory still win the fight. So I have yet to see them fight a team fight where they lose, and especially coming up around the Baron time, this is going to be a team fight that if they win, should help them really close out this game.
Yeah, but they have to watch out to not throw the game right there. So we will see Diangun most probably starting off this dragon. But finally, Young Glory will be able to get without any contest out of World Elite. So that's really good.
Kind of confused as to why Yasuo isn't using his wind wall. Oh, I guess it's up. He's just not blocking the dragon auto attacks. Either way, I don't think he's too worried about that. Does have enough lifesteal. Keep in mind, Yasuo or Diangun's Yasuo went for the more the bigger power spike earlier, or the earlier power spike with the Shiv into Blade of the Ruined King instead of going for the late game power spike by going for an Infinity Edge. So it's paying off. He's 5-1, so nice to see that early power. Really doing what Young Glory do best, and that's winning early on. Still have yet to see if they can close out this game.
Here comes the teleport from Young Glory though, and the big damage from Mega Inferno Bomb.
Yeah, right on top of there, Salme just gets destroyed. And there's the explosive cast slamming Ninja against the wall. Flash over the wall into the last breath. Yan Gun making that move live up to its name. Conan trying to escape over the wall, but there's actually going to get Yan Gun coming in from behind. And even though Yin Fu will actually die in that fight, look at Yan Gun. He's going to be able to chase out Axine. Flashing away there, still slowed out there. The ults keep coming in from Kog'Maw. He's making it rain, and Yan Gun drops in there for his 6th kill of the game. I think that's actually kill number 7 if I can count correctly. Yes, it is. Young Glory gonna take the Baron off of a 4-for-1 exchange.
Yeah, and the big thing about Sin running away in the direction of that Baron is that Young Glory can just quickly pull it off straight after that kill. So a little bit of a bad chase for Elite. And still 7-1-1 on Tiangun. That is just incredible. You thought about him trying to make enemies pick the Yasuo and then counter it with the Riven. He can play this champion himself too. Well, and so well. There we go. We'll see the replay of the fight though.
Yeah, we're going to hop into a replay here in just a second. And there it is up on your screen right now. You see this fight is actually a little bit hesitant by World Elite. They land the Winter's Bite, and Axine actually lands his Q, but after not committing, the back line is really just trying to kill number 1 here. Can't do it. He's way too tanky, and keep in mind the Wei Zhao is not actually dealing a whole lot of damage to the team as a whole. He's more concerned with just poking out with rockets and trying to kite out here. And even though Yin Fu will dash in and suicide, so that's 1 kill. That's the only one that World Elite are going to get. The team just scatters as a whole, and Axine can't escape Dian Gun here. He's going to go down. The 4-for-1. And the Baron, like, I don't think there's anything Young Glory can't do. Keep in mind that fight was predicated by Sao Mei getting blown apart, so still looking for him to find his real role in here. The top lane Fizz, not really making a splash.
Yeah, that's well said, but still, he's dealing a lot of damage. They do manage to get a Young Glory really low in the fights, but there's just no finishing blow. And that is the big thing that they lack right there in their team comp. And also, this Kog'Maw is just so strong right now in the sieges. Dealing incredible amounts of damage. And once again, having a double buff and the Baron buff.
This
is so massive.
Yeah, this game for Young Glory is starting to reach critical mass. And if World Elite are going to make a comeback, they're going to have to deal with Zhenlong. Like you said, double buff, Baron buff. That's a triple buffed Kog'Maw, who has received 0 pressure all game long, is able to just poke out these turrets and really is completely unthreatened, because if anybody from World Elite try to engage on this team fight, they leave their back line completely open, and that's exactly where Dian Gun is going to be. Of course, in the meantime, he's bottom lane and starting fights down there by taking out turrets. Middle second tier turret goes down. Dian Gun's already in the base. Like, he is going to, oh my gosh, Salme almost gets destroyed. 1 auto attack away from death. He's going to get dunked on, but he's going to flip on out of that. Playful Trickster getting him out alive. And just look at Dian Gun. Nobody's stopping him. He's zipping around the team fight, getting the knockups, slaying ninjas. So samurais versus ninjas, you all know who wins. Now the flash out there. Wei Zhao just cannot kite far enough back. No damage being dealt there by the World Elite AD carry, and Young Glory smash the fight, go 2-for-1, and are looking for inhibitors.
Yeah, finally he pays for it with his life, but still just dancing between the enemies, getting everyone solo, almost killing Salme, then killing Ninja, then Sin goes down to 15-6 right now, 2 inhibitors down in favor of Young Glory. And I don't see World Elite stopping them, and just losing double 2-0 in this week will completely kill their vibe.
And the thing that scares me is that as much as people are starting to trash talk Starhorn Royal Club, World Elite's opponents tomorrow, that before tonight's games, I would have said, or before this week rather, I would have said World Elite smash this week of LPL. But instead, OMG, they've got Cloud back and they 2-0'd World Elite yesterday. Young Glory with a huge counter pick in game number 1. World Elite are starting to feel the losses coming their way. They've got 0-2 yesterday versus OMG. They're losing games today. Tomorrow's games, they're not on the books just yet, but World Elite have a lot to prove after looking incredibly shaky this week.
Yeah, they will definitely get a motivational speech from Hero after this game, but it's still not done.
Half the team's not going to understand Hero's motivational speech, but we'll see if he can get, if they can really get the communication down. And
Oh,
that's
just
something
look
World
at
Elite.
Django.
Exactly. He goes in way ahead. He's able to get the dash over the wall to finish off the kill. And he's 1v5ing inside the enemy base. Axine's going to get crit down there. And while the last turret shot will be enough to kill Diangun, he 1v5'd and got 2 kills.
Yeah, got 2 kills, almost got 1 more. This guy is just incredible on this Yasuo. 10-3-2 at the moment. He didn't only get this Blade of the Ruined King, he also got this Infinity Edge hook. So he's got the early and late game spike, both at the same time.
Exactly. Yasuo is a monster, and even without him in this team comp, now they're going to go back to their second AD, or their second carry, and that is, of course, Kog'Maw. He's going to poke down the Nexus turrets. There's nothing World Elite can do here. They're going to try for one last-ditch effort. Axine's going to find a kill there onto Yancer, but I think that's one of the only kills that they're looking for. Actually, okay, a little bit of an overextension there. Cathian Spry's not enough to pick up any kills of his own, but... Okay, so Young Glory just threw pretty hard. They could have just backed off, kited, poked out those Nexus turrets, and then maybe even disengage and come back later. They overcommit. World Elite finds a ton of kills. But is this the comeback they're looking at? I feel like World Elite are kind of in the Copenhagen Wolves spot versus Alliance from earlier on today. It's like they need Barons, Aces, more Barons, and then maybe they'll be able to pull this out.
Yeah, and there's still just 1 turret down for Young Glory, so they would have to chunk through the whole base of Young Glory to take it down.
All right, Diangun's ready for some more 1v5s. He's going to 1v4 the Wraith camp and win that battle. But
yeah, that was a little easier one, but just because it was a 1v4 and not the 1v5.
He straight up bought a Bloodthirster after coming back from that 1v5, grabbing a couple of kills. So he's got 2 BF sword items, 2 attack speed items, and should be looking... I almost would have liked to see maybe a Guardian Angel or a defensive item instead of that BT, because now he's got double lifesteal. It's a little bit redundant. It's cool because it allows you to like really heal up like a ton off of those crits in team fights, but he kind of needs to stay alive. Him being dead lost his team that last fight, so maybe I mean he's going like full on aggression. If they can blow him up, maybe that's the 4v5 that World Elite can win. Right now they're just looking to win this dragon or this Baron fight.
Yeah, they all missed their skill shots, but it doesn't matter too much. Alright, so
like,
yeah, talk about...
there we go. Alright, so Baron spawning. It's going to go down without a fight. World Elite, they're stuck in the base.
Yeah, talking about Django, he will definitely pick up a defensive item as the 6th one, but the question is, will he really have the chance to come back to base to pick it up?
Young Glory, like I said, taking the O out of the Young, and they were just coming out of this, not only game 1, they came out of picks and bans with just a masterful way to counter out the Kassadin team comp. And in this game, it's not only the early game ability they had. Oh, there's the Gragas ult right in to Dian Good. He's kiting out Wei Xiao back to the Nexus, but with another knock up there onto Ninja. That is not going to end very well. Now, Salme should be able to find the kill here onto Dian Gun. Gets the Playful, the Trickster for the kill. But look at the Nexus. It's going to go down here as Young Glory will find a 2-0 victory. There was only 1-2-0 predicted by the casters coming into this game, but it was in the other direction. And coming out off of a jaw-dropping 2-game performance, Young Glory will smash World Elite and take themselves out of the bottom of the standings, picking up 3 points, and more importantly, getting themselves all the way up to at least in range of LGD. They're now at 6-10, so if LGD starts doing poorly and Young Glory kicks up the pressure, you could see them even overtake like a 6th or 5th spot. Like, they're coming up.
Yeah, there's a big points difference, but they really can try. And they definitely do have the opportunity to make it happen. With such plays, they can win against the top tier teams, no problem. And we'll look at World Lead versus Starhorn, as you said, tomorrow. I don't know what to think about this matchup.
I I don't know. I'm going to have to rethink my life after those games. Incredible performance. I'm now excited to watch the bottom two teams in LPL. Just had a recent look at an interview with World Elite Academy saying how, you know, they're doing all the things that they're doing to start to come back in the standings, coming in here to the end of the season, trying to finish strong. Well, Young Glory, maybe a little bit less spectacularly coming back, but I just can't say enough good things about them. Never thought I'd be in this place, but then again, I don't think World Elite thought they'd be in this place either. So they come off of a 0-4 performance this week. We'll look for a redemption series versus Starhorn Royal Club tomorrow. So we're going to go ahead and take a little bit of an extended break here. If you guys are new to the LPL, there is a 1-hour break between sets. So the first set is over. It was a 2-0 victory for Young Glory over World Elites. So now we're going to have
a quick one.
Oh, yeah, that's something that should be
so
said.
We do have a long break right now, actually even longer than 1 hour, so that's a big thing.
It's true. So we'll be back in about an hour and 20 minutes. We'll show the stream up on the screen in case you guys want to keep an eye on that, but should be back in about an hour and 20 minutes before we hop into our second series of the night. Keep in mind, if you guys are not familiar with the LPL, it's 2 best of 2s. We'll see our second best of 2 between Edward Gaming and Invictus Gaming coming up in about an hour and 20 minutes. So once again, thank you for watching the LPL here in English on Twitch TV. I am Rapid. I'm here with Nero. We'll be coming back to you guys in about an hour and 20. Stick around. We'll be back in a bit.
欢迎各位观众朋友收看本期《英雄代言人》。我们《英雄代言人》的节目